Good morning. My name is Kaley Chiles. I'm a licensed counselor in Colorado. Thank you so much to President Trump and this commission for the opportunity to share my story. I became a counselor because I know the truth's power to set people free. When we learn to understand ourselves, confront pain, and pursue healing through a counseling relationship, those tools do not rust or depreciate with time. They can shape the rest of our lives, and this is the kind of service I felt called to provide. My own life experiences played a critical role in this calling. During my high school years, there was deep tension in my family, and I longed to learn the skills for meaningful conflict resolution. Around the same time, I began experiencing grand mal seizures, sudden seizures with no known cause. I had to give up my driver's license, and I wasn't even allowed to be alone for a time in case I passed out. As a 17-year-old, that loss of independence was jarring. But that season of suffering changed me. It forced me to slow down, to reflect, and ultimately to trust God more than I ever have before. Those experiences also shaped my desire to help others navigate suffering and find hope. In counseling, the client sets the goals, and I walk alongside them as we chart a path forward. This teamwork requires trust, authenticity, and the freedom for us to speak freely. My first counseling job was in a male prison. Later, I worked at a dual diagnosis adolescent facility, one level down from young people who are actively suicidal. In both places, I saw the depth of human struggle, but I also witnessed the incredible potential for transformation when people have the chance to talk to someone they trust. Because what often brings someone into counseling is only the surface issue. Addiction, anxiety, anger, depression may be the presenting struggle, but those are often the fruit of something deeper. Counseling is about uncovering the root, the fears, the wounds, the questions underneath the surface, so real healing can happen. If you only address the fruit and you ignore the root, the problem simply grows back in another form. In 2022, while reviewing state statutes that govern licensed counselors, I discovered Colorado had passed a law dictating which counseling conversations my clients and I are allowed to have. On issues of sex, if the client's goal is to regain comfort with their body, the government prohibits that conversation. But Colorado expressly encourages me to push minors toward so-called transition, which often includes harmful drugs and surgeries. I was stunned. In my practice, questions about identity and sexuality often arise, even when my clients come in for completely different challenges. But under this law, if those questions come up, I would be required to promote the government's talking points, even when they were opposed to the client's goals. I knew I couldn't stay silent while Colorado inserted itself into my relationship with my counselors, or with my clients, and put them at risk. So I contacted Alliance Defending Freedom, and we filed a lawsuit challenging Colorado's counseling censorship law. I have seen how the law rejects truth. There's always a human cost. For me, the cost was immediate. It cost me both the jobs I had at the time. I received death threats and complaints against my license from people who have never met me or my clients. But the deeper cost falls on the young people affected by these laws, and Colorado families aren't the only ones impacted. 23 states and over 100 local governments have adopted similar counseling censorship laws. These laws insert the government into private counseling conversations in an attempt to control a client's goal. And the stakes are incredibly high. Research suggests that roughly 90% of children experiencing sex-related distress will regain comfort with their sex, if allowed to work through their feelings without being pushed to transition. But an even higher number will become lifelong medical patients with irreversible consequences if pushed down the path to transition. This is why medical authorities around the world are approaching transition procedures with caution. One recent case study found a psychologist and surgeon liable for malpractice for recommending and performing the removal of a teen girl's healthy breasts without examining the root of her distress. Despite this legal vindication, she will never recover what she lost. The First Amendment is not an abstract principle in a counseling office. It ensures open dialogue in the pursuit of truth. But Colorado's law silences the very conversations that allow us counselors to explore the root of a young person's pain with them. My case was heard by the U.S. Supreme Court this last fall, and I'm hopeful they will reaffirm that the government can never censor conversations simply because it disagrees with the client's personal goals or viewpoint expressed. Young people wrestling with identity deserve counselors who are free to speak, ask questions, listen with compassion, and walk alongside them in their search for hope and restoration. I hope that this administration will also continue to preserve this foundational freedom, even for the most vulnerable among us, our children.